Welcome to College and Career Ready Night. We're so excited that you joined us, and specifically for this session on agriculture and veterinary sciences pathway. I have some guests here with me today. First, I should tell you, my name is Michelle Gamelgard. I am the Mathematics and Science Division Head at Rolling Meadows High School. And I have joining me this evening our panelists. Kirsten Eubanks is a teacher at Rolling Meadows High School. Liz Freese is a veterinary technician at Randhurst Animal Hospital. And Sophie Murray is a student apprentice at Randhurst and also a student at Rolling Meadows High School. So we're really excited to have them here with us tonight to talk to you about this pathway. So I'm going to turn this on over first to Kirsten, who will start us off.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, my name is Kirsten Eubanks. I am one of the lead teachers for our agricultural pathway that we have at our school. So I'm going to kind of go through the courses that we offer and some of the stuff that we do within that. So we start off with our freshman year where students have that opportunity to choose between whether they want to take agricultural biology or biology. And kind of that main difference for students when they are making that choice is agricultural biology allows students the opportunity to work within our greenhouse, as well as working with more of our therapy dogs and live animals that we have at the school. And we focus a lot more on like plant and animal systems over human systems. We still do touch on human systems within that course, but there is a little bit of a difference. So that's kind of what most students have noted with the differences within those two classes, or kind of the differences that they've noticed. But once students take our agricultural biology course, they have the opportunity to move into our food science pathway or our veterinary science pathway. And our food science pathway, we have a greenhouse, a high tunnel, raised beds, an aquaponic system, hydroponic system. So students really have the opportunity to work very hands-on with a lot of different types of plant systems and learning a lot about sustainability within the food growing career pathway. And students get a lot of really cool hands-on opportunities to really see if they want to work within that food industry of kind of growing food. Also within our food science pathway, so students kind of start with food science. And it's kind of like the basics of growing plants and food and all of that. Students then have the opportunity to take two different courses, which are both dual credit courses with the College of DuPage. The first one is agricultural business, which is just learning how to run a business. And we use our greenhouse and we set up an entire sale, and students get the opportunity to practice running a business out of our greenhouse. So that's a really cool class. Another class that we offer within the food science pathway is our sustainable urban agriculture class, which teaches students a lot about sustainability and sustainable food growing methods. And so our students really have that opportunity to kind of get dual credit course and college credits for free through that side of the pathway, which is really cool. And a lot of our students who have taken that course are actually moving into some sort of either food science pathway passion of theirs. One student is looking into agribusiness. One student is looking into actually running a hydroponics facility. So it's really cool. And it gives students that chance to see a different side of growing food outside of just food in a giant field. So they're very cool and interesting courses that our students have liked. On the flip side, we have what is our veterinary science pathway. And in our veterinary science pathway, we have three courses. We have Veterinary 1, Veterinary 2, and Veterinary Assisting. Our Veterinary 1 course offers students the chance to kind of learn the basics of what the working in a veterinary hospital looks like. And so we go over kind of just the basics of a physical exam. We go over skeletal systems, muscular systems. We learn about patient and client relationships. We work really closely with our therapy dogs in all of our veterinary science classes to give students the chance to get hands-on experiences. After students have taken that Vet Science 1 class, they get to take the Veterinary Science 2 class. And our Veterinary Science 2 class gives students a little bit more in-depth look at the vet science career. We do a lot more problem solving of like, if a bone breaks, how do you repair that? How do you give a vaccination? How do you do blood draws? How do you give sutures to animals? We take a certified CPR course, and our students actually are CPR certified with dogs once they're done with that course. So it gives students kind of that chance of seeing if a dog is not feeling well or a cat is not feeling well and they come into the clinic, kind of how do you problem solve that, or how you kind of look and see what's going on with that animal. Once our students have completed those 2 courses, they get to take our next course, which is veterinary assisting. And veterinary assisting is where we actually place students for an entire semester at a vet clinic. And that student gets the chance to really work hands-on, one-on-one with a veterinary clinic. And that clinic really just gets to choose kind of what the experiences that student receives based off of their students' skill levels. Most of the students that we've actually placed at veterinary clinics have generally been pretty impressed with our students and their knowledge base, just because we cover quite a bit in our Vet Science 1 and 2 courses. And then students really kind of get a better idea after taking an entire semester's worth of working in a vet clinic, whether that's a true passion of theirs and if that's something they really want to work towards. So it's been a really cool and interesting pathway that we have started. It's been going for about 6 years now. And Sophie, who is with me, has actually taken every single course offered within our pathway on the food science side and like the vet science side. So she's actually here to kind of speak upon some of her experiences within that, but also she's going to talk a lot about her apprenticeship with Randhurst. So I think we're going to kind of transition with Randhurst apprenticeships now, right?
Oh, me? Sorry. Oh,
So I guess just what does it look like when the students are there with the apprenticeship, or kind of what does it look like when they're in the clinic?
yeah. So, I am one of the certified veterinary technicians at Randhurst Animal Hospital. I have worked there kind of off and on for the last 5 years or so. Took a little bit of a break, but I'm back there now. And the students that we've had, initially when you get there, we're going to help you kind of get the lay of the land. Um, you know, what does it look like inside the clinic, behind the closed doors, as it were, beyond the exam room. Um, biggest thing is initially just kind of helping out around the clinic. There's a lot of just kind of basic day-to-day stuff that needs to get done, and then we always need extra hands. But you're also going to get to observe what goes on during our exams when we're bringing animals in the back, whether it's for different procedures, or sometimes animals just do a little bit better when they're away from their owners. So we'll bring them in the back to get the vaccines done, draw blood samples, get any kind of other tissue samples we might need. We also have surgeries going on during the day. We do dental cleanings, we do spays, neuters, mass removals, things like that. So you're potentially going to be observing those kinds of things. We take x-rays on site. We have a lab on site, so we're able to process different lab samples. We look at blood and urine and everybody's favorite poop. But they all help us to try to figure out what's going on with our animal friends, since they can't really talk to us. So those students are really there to kind of take that all in, really get it, feel for what it's like to work in a clinic, the kind of work that you would be doing every day. And as they get more comfortable and we get more comfortable with them, they can start to help potentially restrain an animal, or we'll definitely kind of talk them through kind of the cases and things that are going on like that. So it's definitely a great opportunity to kind of really get your feet wet and see what it's like to work in a clinic.
Nice. Thanks, Liz. I was wondering if maybe Sophie would want to talk a little bit about then her experience.
Sure. So far, I've been working for about 3 months, and I've gotten to see a lot of different procedures and exams that go on, like Liz said, behind the doors. And I've gotten to a point where when a dog comes in and they need help restraining that animal, I can help them with that. Um, and I also just got offered the ability to help with boarding the dogs over weekends. And a lot of what I do is helping out the technicians with like restocking and cleaning, but it's been really nice to get to observe some of those procedures like dentals or even some surgeries.
That's awesome. Is there anything else that you all could add or talk about with respect to the pathway that hasn't been brought up yet?
I will say taking the veterinary science courses has really helped me because at work, because we learn a lot of restraints and we also learn about equipment. So I did go in with some previous knowledge, and while I did get trained on everything, it was a lot easier to adjust having learned about it previous years.
That's awesome.
I will just say, I was not as fortunate as Sophie to have that kind of opportunity for me in high school, which I would have absolutely taken advantage of. For me, the veterinary field was kind of a second career. I had already gone to undergrad and then kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do. Thought about veterinary medicine, and which was something that I had always been interested in as a kid. And so I ended up getting a job as a veterinary assistant in an emergency clinic. And while I was kind of doing the same sort of stuff that Sophie's doing every day, it really helped me kind of see what there was to offer in the veterinary field, and especially just besides becoming a veterinarian. Most people have heard of a veterinarian, they know what a veterinarian is, what they do. Most people don't know that you can also be a veterinary technician, you can also be a veterinary assistant. So there are other career options in the field that you're kind of able to explore when you have that early exposure. And then having that experience in the emergency clinic, then deciding to go to technician school, I came into it with this base of knowledge, just like Sophie does. So I knew how to do a basic, restraint on animals. I knew what an IV catheter looked like. I knew what, a fluid bag and an IV bag and all those kinds of things. So it really set me up for success when I decided to go back to school to follow that path. I just felt a lot more confident in it. And I will also say, going through school, there were quite a few students, fellow students of mine, that ended up not finishing in the program. And I think a big part of that was they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. They didn't have the correct expectations. They thought, well, I love working with animals and I don't like working with people, so I'm going to be a veterinary assistant or whatever. But I will tell you, every animal that walks in that door is attached to a person. Even if you're working in shelter medicine, when you're working with animals that don't have owners yet, you're still working. You have coworkers. You're working with other people. So, people is still a big part of the business. People don't maybe realize how much math is involved. That was another big thing. You're calculating drug doses and fluid rates and changing pounds to kilograms and all of this kind of stuff. So, being comfortable with math is another thing that you need to be aware of. But, being able to get that experience and get that exposure before you're then investing all of this extra time and money into an undergrad program or an associate's program is really a great way to kind of feel out, is this something that I really want to do? The other thing that I'm not sure if this is talked about in your classes, but the veterinary field is huge. There is a lot more to it than just companion animals. There is agricultural veterinary medicine. People eat cows and pigs and all of that kind of stuff, and those animals, they still need veterinary care. I'm sure we've all been to the zoo. Those animals still need veterinary care. There's mammals, you've got reptiles and birds and all of those things, all of those are potential specialties. And then even beyond that, you've got specialty care. So you've got your emergency rooms, your specialty surgeons, your cardiologists, your eye doctors and dentists and dermatologists. And I mean, the list goes on. And I've worked with many of them. So if as you get into it and as you grow, if you find those things that you are more interested in, you really do have that opportunity to specialize. So, beyond just being a certified veterinary technician, they also actually have additional certification specialties in the veterinary technician field. So just like a doctor a veterinarian can specialize as a surgeon or a cardiologist. A technician can also specialize in, I'm not sure, there probably is a cardiology one. There's definitely a surgery, anesthesia, analgesia, dietary, behavior, um, physical therapy. I mean, all of these different things. So the field is really growing a lot. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of different areas that you can get into, which is just really exciting, I think.
That is awesome. Thank you. Kirsten, anything to add at this time?
Um, Not too much other than just kind of some of the stuff that you noted with our veterinary medicine is, yeah, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of math involved. And so within our pathway in general, so something I haven't talked about yet is we also have what is called FFA. And FFA is actually an agricultural organization that we have within our pathway. And that agricultural organization has a veterinary science competition. And Sophie was on our team last year. Our team got third place overall at state. And the biggest thing that gets a lot of people is the math. So it's kind of interesting. Math kind of tends to steer people away, but kind of when you take the course, we go over really kind of how you do those calculations and kind of going over a little more in depth of some of those things and what that looks like. So yeah, we really try to kind of give students that glimpse of what it would realistically be if they did choose that as a career path. And we want students to kind of really get as much or as many opportunities as possible. And that's exactly what we try to do. We try to give our students any hands-on activities or any types of seeing firsthand what goes on within either the food science pathway or even in the animal science pathway. Because we really just want to give them a better idea of just their passions and career ideas. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I thought what we could do next is I want to show everyone where they can kind of reference the information they've heard today, as well as even like the class pathways, see the visual. And then we can open it up to whatever questions you may have. So for everyone listening in, if you have any questions, we'll be taking them in a couple of minutes. So think about that. The course guidebook is where you'll be able to reference a lot of the classes that were mentioned. So what you're seeing right now is a page of the guidebook that houses information about the food science pathway. And so you can see the suggested pathway through the years at the high school. So starting with 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, capstone classes being at the 12th grade level. The plant and animal systems pathway, also in the guidebook, talking through many of the classes again that we just heard about. And where do we find that guidebook? If you go to the District 214 website and click on academics, and then find the menu that's kind of front and center on the screen. The Academic Programs and Pathways Guidebook is a PDF. The cover's over on the right-hand side. That's what it should look like. And you can sift through the pages and descriptions that are in there to reference course selection, future course selection. So I'm going to exit this screen right here and see if we can see if there are any questions that we can take. And whatever works best for people, if you would like to just unmute yourself and ask a question, or if you'd like to type something into the chat box, I'm happy to read the questions to our panelists, whatever you're most comfortable with.
I got a private message, so I will go ahead and just read it out loud. So it just asked for a current junior who has not taken these vet science classes yet. Is it too late to be a part of this pathway? No. So if your student is a junior now, they are more than able to take veterinary 1 and 2 next year, their senior year. The only course they wouldn't have the opportunity to take is vet assisting, because we do require students to complete vet 1 and vet 2 before they go into a vet assisting course, just so that students have that hands-on experiences before we send them into a clinic. Because the conversations we have at the clinic is that students do kind of have a little bit of a knowledge base before entering into it. So your student can still take vet science 1 and 2 with us their senior year for sure. Next question, is there any way to take veterinary courses that are not available at my current school? So yes. So our district has a really cool opportunity where if you do not go to Rolling Meadows, which is where we house our veterinary science courses, you still have the opportunity to take the veterinary science courses. Our district, our counselors are phenomenal, and they'll work with you and work with your schedule to find an opportunity for you to be able to take that course. You would just have to come to Rolling Meadows to take the course, and then you would go back to your home school. So let's say you go to Buffalo Grove, you would just come to Rolling Meadows for the vet science course, and then you would go back to Buffalo Grove for your next course. And so they kind of work with your schedule and work with you on that. If you don't have your own form of transportation, our district will also provide you a taxi service to actually get you to and from your home school. So if you don't even have like a vehicle of your own to use, they'll still make sure that you're able to take that course, because we really want students to have that opportunity across all schools within the district.
That's awesome. And I have to stand corrected that I didn't realize you cannot unmute yourself. So questions via chat are definitely the way to go. Taking a look, I don't see any questions coming in yet. While we're waiting for a second, Kristen, can you talk a little bit about how, like Liz had mentioned, the different types of like veterinary work that can be done with like various animals. And I know you've mentioned a few times having students that have specialized in other things. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like and how we're able to work with a student?
Yeah, so once students are kind of going into the vet assisting course, what we do is by that time I kind of know really kind of what the students' passions are. I kind of have an idea of where they're really kind of steering towards. And our students in our vet science courses have passions all over the place. Some students really do want to work with exotic animals within a zoo setting. Some really want to do conservation work with animals. Some students do want to work with livestock. And so we really reach out as far as we possibly can with our clinics and with offerings so that students can try and get as close to an experience as what they think that they would prefer as a career path. I know that within veterinary medicine, if you choose that you want to work with livestock animals, you still kind of learn the basics of all of the animals and working with all of the animals. But for us specifically, we just kind of give you a little sampling of what that might look like, depending on kind of the people who want to work with the students. So in previous years, we've actually placed students at like Parrot Stars, where students got to work who were really passionate about working with birds. They got to be at Parrot Stars, where they got to just see a little bit more behind the scenes of what that kind of care looks like. We've sent students to some smaller zoos to kind of work with more exotic animals and work with them. And we do have a lot of small animal clinics that we work with as well. So there's kind of some really cool opportunities for students, kind of depending on their passions. We really try to work with as many clinics and as many placements as possible to kind of steer a little bit closer to what they're more passionate about working with.
Awesome. That also reminded me, can you talk a little bit about, like it was mentioned, that we are fortunate at Rolling Meadows to have the greenhouse and the high tunnel and all, the experience that students can have to be working with plants as well. Can you talk a little bit about the capacity in which students can study plants, like through our pathway?
In
So
terms,
you have the classes, and I'm thinking about the students that have like we have the student that spent the summer helping at the greenhouse and things of that sort.
oh yeah. Okay. So within our food science pathway, we have some really cool opportunities, apprenticeships. So we have a student, he couldn't make it tonight. He has an orchestra concert, but he is a current apprentice with our pathway, which means we're working with him all school year. He's taken most of our courses that we offer. So he's a senior this year, and he actually is for a year long working under an apprenticeship with us to oversee the greenhouse, the high tunnel, the raised beds, and anything within those areas. And it is paid through the district. So he gets a paid apprenticeship to kind of really manage and kind of run all of that. And so he has a lot of ownership within the program, but he's learning really closely just kind of how to spot like certain tiny little differences within the plant and how to like identify that there's a disease and we need to catch it fast. And so that's something that he's really kind of picked up on and he's getting really good at. And so it kind of gives them some ownership of the greenhouse as well. Within that apprenticeship as well, we are allowing students to take a dual credit course or a college course, both semesters. So they are getting college credit with that apprenticeship. So that's a really cool opportunity that we offer and on the plant science and food science side. So yeah, got a few more questions in the chat.
Perfect.
Let me see. So one was, since there are 2 classes that would be taken next year, would they qualify for an internship for the summer following graduation? Internships and apprenticeships, I am not entirely sure about how that works. I think that would be like a, Michelle, would you know, do they after graduation, what that looks like?
That is a good question. I am not positive on a solid answer on that. That would be something I would have to reach out and get further information about.
Math courses that you would recommend for veterinary care. Liz, do you have like kind of recommendations of what you say would help a lot with vet medicine?
I mean, it's basic algebra. I mean, it's luckily we don't have to get into like calculus and trigonometry because that would just be over my head. I mean, it's going to be basic arithmetic, really. The most you're doing is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Just having a general kind of familiarity with numbers it is helpful to be able to do simple math in your head if and when you get to that point because you will certain calculations you're going to do on a daily basis, certain drugs you're using regularly. And so, I mean, I could tell you right now, like if you give me the weight of a dog, I could tell you how much carprofen they would need, so it's those kinds of things you'll just kind of get into your brain, but it's not necessarily advanced math, which is kind of nice, but it's just being comfortable doing just basic calculations. There are one or two that still get me every time, and I have to look up how to do it. When you're talking about adding a certain percentage of a drug to a bag of fluids, that can get a little bit tricky. But even, coworkers that I have that have been in the field for 20 plus years sometimes still have to look that up. So, it's like I said, just basic, but not being afraid of it is kind of the biggest thing. So,
It sounds like too, like an idea of number sense. Like once you
yes,
get familiar, right? So
yes,
when you're doing calculations, the idea of like, well, that would make sense that I'd give this much to a 70-pound dog versus this much to the 30-pound dog. Like,
yes. And
yeah.
eventually too, like I said, the more familiar you get with those calculations, you're then able to kind of spot your mistakes. If you make a calculation and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to give this much of this, and then you're like, wait, that doesn't seem right. I might have missed a step. So I've actually caught some doctor mistakes on that before. So a lot of it, yeah, like I said, is just being kind of comfortable and familiar with the way numbers work, kind of their relationship to each other. Like I said, biggest things is multiplication and division. Knowing how to move the decimal point, when you're going, because it's all going to be what's the word? Oh my gosh, my brain just stopped working. The metric system. Thank you. Um, so, it's easy to go from, liters to milliliters, things like that. So having an understanding of the metric system, liters and kilograms, grams and all that kind of stuff, how those things relate to each other, can be helpful too. So,
And then on the flip side, science classes that you found helpful, not necessarily like veterinary science classes, but just science classes that you found helpful that kind of helped connect the dots between veterinary medicine.
yeah, absolutely. Biology is going to be your number one, because we're dealing with living creatures. And so that is essentially biology, anatomy, physiology, even if it's human, because again, most of the animals in general, you're working with mammals, and a lot of stuff transfers over. Dogs have kidneys just like we do. You'd be surprised, the kind of stuff that actually transfers over. A lot of the drugs and medications that we use are the same as they would be in people, just maybe different dosage, things like that. And then chemistry, just, basic chemistry. I guess it depends on what path you're taking. If you're looking at getting into being a veterinarian, definitely chemistry. They're going to want you to take organic chemistry once you get to college, which I've heard can be a little intense, but if that's your passion, then I'm sure you'll figure it out. So I would say those are kind of the bigger things: biology, anatomy, and then a little bit of chemistry is helpful when you're learning about the way drugs work and things like that. That's where I would focus.
We also have a course, and I'm not sure how many schools offer it, but there is a course called Med Terms that is offered.
Yes.
And that course is very helpful. Medical terminology crosses over between human and animal medicine. And I would say that one is a big trip up. There's a lot of terminology that you need to understand. And so Med Terms really helps a lot with that as well. Kind of when you understand prefixes and things like that, you can kind of really quickly understand what type of system is being affected and things like that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that was a class that was required when I was in technician school. It's one of the first classes you take because it is a real foundation course. Like you say, those prefixes, those suffixes, those root words, and it's going to help with learning biology. It's going to help with learning anatomy because all of those terms are in there. So yes, definitely medical terminology if that's an option.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions waiting?
I have one that asks, kind of talking about taking classes next semester, but I think I'm going to private chat this person about it. So.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? I don't have anything in the chat right now. I did have a question regarding if the recording will be available later. I do know that, yeah, it will be. How that will be accessed, we'll have to let you know. But I know it's being recorded so that it can be accessed later. All right. Any other questions from your end, Liz or Kirsten, that we should address?
I mean,
Colleges with good veterinary programs. There's a
so
lot.
yeah, I mean, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but really any of the colleges in the US that have a veterinary program, with a clinical hospital on site, those are going to be the ones that are going to give, in terms of veterinary school that are going to give you the best exposure. I do know that there is I think they're talking about opening a few more veterinary schools that aren't necessarily attached to a clinical hospital. That doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to get the same experience. You're just going to have to find that outside of the school itself, and the school will help facilitate you finding those internships and things like that. With the technician side, you can go either the bachelor degree route, and any of those veterinary colleges should be offering a veterinary technician path as well. You can also do an associate's program, which is what I did, since I had already gone to a 4-year bachelor's degree. I didn't want to have to go through all of that again. And so those are going to tend to be a little bit more focused. Just in this area, you've got Fox College that is kind of on the south side. They have a veterinary technician program that I've heard wonderful things about. I've worked with graduates from Fox. I went to school out in Colorado at a school called Bel Ray. And the thing I liked about it was that it was just a veterinary technician school. They didn't have any other programs. So every class that you took was relevant to your career, everything built off of what you just learned. We had all sorts of animals on campus. We had everything from cat and dogs, birds, reptiles, small mammals. We had horses, we had goats, so really everything was right there. So you do get a lot of hands-on experience, which is obviously necessary, I think, in this field. And then, when you get to that internship level, they can help you find whether you want to do companion animal or specialty. I was at a emergency and specialty clinic, which was great because I got exposure to a lot of different departments and a lot of different options. So, but I will say, from what I hear, veterinary school is very competitive because there are not that many. So if that's something that you're looking towards, be prepared for that. But I will also say technicians have more fun. We get to do a lot more. The veterinarians are the ones that they do the diagnoses. They prescribe the medications. They're the ones physically doing the surgeries. But as a technician, you're the one that you're taking the x-rays, you're drawing the blood, you're running those samples, you're assisting in the surgery, you're running the anesthesia. You're the one that's communicating with the clients, kind of that go-between. So it's really a lot of fun. It's challenging. I never really know what I'm walking into on any given day, which is kind of nice. So it definitely keeps me on my toes.
Liz, I have a question that came in that
Yeah.
was regarding this. At what point in school, like in college, I guess, do you specialize, like in terms of like really pinpointing what it is you want to focus on?
Hmm.
Like, for example, like being a vet at a zoo versus
Hmm.
working with farm animals or small mammals, reptiles. Like, at what point in your studies do you need to kind of narrow that down?
Sure. So I can't speak specifically to vet school, and at what point. I mean, I believe it's going to be kind of towards the end. And really, it's going to be, I think, after you're kind of done with the veterinary program, you're going to learn all of it, really. You're going to learn about all of the species. You're going to learn about all of the specialties. You're going to take rotations in surgery and large animal and cardiology. You're gonna get exposed to all of those things, and that's, I think, going to give you even more opportunity to kind of figure out what it is that you want to potentially focus on. But to get that kind of further certification and stuff, that's going to take additional schooling beyond just veterinary school. On the technician side, at least for me, again, you're learning about all of it. You're learning about all of the different, I mean, I had excuse me, most of your classes are going to be focused on companion animal, but you do take a reptile avian class. You do take a lab animal class, which is going to be your rats and mice and guinea pigs and all those kind of pocket pets. You do take a large animal class. And it was in that kind of your last semester, right before your clinicals, where you kind of decide the biggest distinction is, do you want small animal or large animal? And if you're going to do large animal, you have to take an additional large animal clinical class. Otherwise, you kind of stick with what path you're on. And then it's your internship. Where do you want to go? What do you want to be exposed to? What are you interested in? And that's really, for me, where I was able to, take that opportunity to be at an emergency and referral clinic. If you're going to want to go into large animal, you're going to work in a clinic that sees horses. There was one girl in my class who actually went to Thailand and worked with elephants, which was a lot of legwork for her, but totally worth it. So, you can get an internship at a zoo, that kind of thing. So that's sort of towards the end where you can kind of pick what you want to be exposed to. And then once you graduate, trying to find a job in that particular area. And then on the technician side,